Hi, Eddie Troxler here. This is another episode of jazzchat.org. You can find us at jazzchat.org, or also the people at FATV. They post these too. And if you want to get in touch with me, if you'd like to be a guest or anything, just feel free to email me. You can catch my email through there, or it's eddiesmusicco@gmail.com. All right, I do have a guest today. I'm honored to have Amy McGlothlin, who is, what's your title?
I'm the director of bands.
Director of bands at Fitchburg State. The past two or three guests, we've been talking about some playing opportunities. I had the mayor on, and she mostly talked about a lot of the venues that she goes to that have music. And then I had last week I had Robert Potterton III from Christ Church, who directs orchestra and also has space there. Anyone who wants to needs space to do concerts or rehearsals or anything like that. And then, so Amy at Fitchburg State, or Dr. McGlothlin at Fitchburg State College, and I am adjunct faculty there too, has done so much for the college since I've been, keeping up with it. And there's a lot of opportunities. Say, even if you played like in high school or something, and you want to start back, or you're a professional player and you're looking for some places, and I can let Amy share some of that, introduce yourself or whatever, and what about the opportunities. Say if someone wants to join the community band. This semester's halfway through, but it would be kind of difficult.
We do have a lot of opportunities for community members and adults, who have some kind of experience in music. The concert band meets on Thursday nights. It's like 5:45 p.m., so it's usually enough time for people to, kind of come after work. And we have, I'd say, probably 45%, 50% of that group are community members of some sort. We have people who are alumni of the university. We have retired professors. We've had people who have played in that group since they were in high school, and they're adults now with kids of their own. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really great group of people. And I'm really fortunate to have that group, that kind of cohort there, because it really gives our students an opportunity to work with a lot of different people in an ensemble. And I think it's really important for them to be able to see that, just because you're not working in music doesn't mean you can't have music in your life and be playing music. And there's a lot of opportunities around. So we got the concert band. We also have a community orchestra. And the choirs are also available to people. Those meet a little bit earlier, Monday, Wednesday afternoons. But, the directors of both of those ensembles are very open to having community members participate because it's a great way, one, to keep music in your life, but also to, interact with the students and really kind of build connections across a lot of different careers that people have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so with your bands, anybody can join. There's no audition, or there. But you would kind of expect them to at least read music a little bit, or I mean, even if they can only play a few notes, I guess you could write the charts. But
so with the concert band, I expect them to have some concert band instrument experience previously, whether they played in a band in high school or even in college. That's fine. They don't have to be an amazing player. Just come and play. With the jazz band, I run it more like a modern band ensemble now, which is becoming more popular in the high schools, which means that it's really accessible to students who maybe don't read music or maybe play, kind of a non-traditional instrument. So we'll take anybody on any instrument at any level. And I've had some semesters where I've had like 4 guitarists, and one just picked up the guitar 2 months ago, and one's been playing practically his whole life, and they kind of help each other out. And that gives an opportunity to kind of arrange for the people in the ensemble and give them a part that suits their abilities. So that way everybody gets to play and everybody feels valued. And I think that's really important. And for a lot of these students who play like guitar or bass or sometimes even singers, they've never had an opportunity to play with other people. So it's not uncommon for them to come in and say, wow, it's the first time I've ever played with a group.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it does seem to be kind of a different school of thought, like say, playing in an orchestra where it's pretty much chart reading,
right?
As opposed to going down to the paddock and sitting in with a blues band, or
sure,
something.
Yeah.
It's a and I think for me, I try to get a balance of both. I've done some, theater stuff and, pit band and some big band stuff, but it's generally a lot of driving.
Yeah, it is for a low pay too.
Yeah. And you really gotta love it. But I mean, fortunately now I have restaurant gigs that I'm super grateful for. But who knows how long that'll last? And then, but the vocal one, some of those require audition, right? That would be through Dr. Harvey at Fitchburg State College, right?
That's right. So his chamber choir is an auditioned group, and he'll hear an audition at any time. So, it's too late to join for this semester, but if you were thinking about joining in the fall, you could audition, in April for the fall, or even the first week of school in the fall. So, and he's great. He's really open to working with anybody that wants to sing. And his concert choir is open to anyone. You don't have to have any experience singing to participate in that. So we try to keep our ensembles as accessible to everyone as possible because we want everyone to be able to participate in music, and we don't want it to be exclusionary.
And even if you're not a musician or want to go check out the concerts, because I was really amazed at how good some of them are sounding, like recently. I've been here since 2018, and, for my concert band, I've just been steadily raising the bar. And, last fall, it used to be I'd give them like one pretty hard piece and then, some pieces that were a little bit easier. And last fall, I gave them several hard pieces, and they really rose to the occasion. And, it really paid off. And not only was I proud of them, I think they were really proud of themselves because it was hard music. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, that that helps a lot. And you play as well. You're a saxophone. So what got you into music? You fell in love with it when you were a kid?
I was. So when I was little, I so wanted to be a pianist. Like when I was 4 or 5, I'd see people playing piano on TV. I was like, that's what I want to do. And that's all I talked about was want to take piano lessons. I want to take piano lessons. And finally, when I was like 6, my parents got me signed up with piano lessons, and they bought an upright piano from our neighbor. And Dad went down there with his pickup truck, and they rolled it in there and rolled it into our house. I realize now that 6 was kind of young to be taking piano lessons. Yeah,
I've tried to I've taught some 6-year-olds that seem to get it, but
right.
Or they practice some, but not.
It's a different type of teaching.
And I think I know that like other countries, sometimes they put them in special schools like China or former Soviet Union.
Right.
But I don't know if they end up not liking it,
right.
or something. So that's tough to. My master's is education, so I did a lot of research on, development theories and all that stuff. But I don't know. To me, I think if you really love it, you're going to stay with it. So
right.
even my students over at the college, I try to give them some technical stuff, the hard stuff that they don't want to learn, reading, new chords, all that. But get them some songs they want to learn, that are a challenge.
Right. It's a balance, But yeah, I started when I was 6 on piano, and then where I grew up in Virginia, we started band in 6th grade, and I wanted to play in band, and I actually wanted to play French horn. And I have 2 older brothers, and my mom said, well, we own a saxophone and a trumpet, so you can pick one of those. And my brother was in high school, and he was still playing the trumpet, and I was like, well, I'm not sharing with him, so I guess I'll play a saxophone. So that's how I ended up with that instrument. And, I mean, now I have 3 degrees in saxophone, so...
That's good.
Yeah.
I played alto sax in
no kidding. I didn't know that.
Middle school. Yeah. And I think I chose that. Well, my father had all these old jazz records and stuff, and I'm glad I was exposed to that. And my mother had Beatles. But one that they had, my parents had, one of the records was that Boots Randolph. The
yakety sax one, yeah.
So I think that was why I chose saxophone, because it was cool,
Right, it was cool.
But, I don't know, I didn't... it wasn't such a good program that we had. It was like, and it was my fault too for not putting the time in that, because I didn't like to carry my horn home.
Well,
because all the kids on the bus wanted to play it, and it was so.
Right.
Plus, even though I came from a fairly well-off family, my father was always wheeling and dealing. It was probably a much better horn. He got, knew the guy at the music store, got me a good horn,
Yeah.
But it wasn't shiny like all the other kids.
Right, right. So, right,
But looking back, I think it was a Martin or something. So it was probably a really good horn.
It was probably a better horn than your friends had, but it wasn't a new horn, right? Yeah. It's hard to reconcile when, you're in the 6th grade and image is a lot.
Yeah, and I did learn some, and I'm glad, like when I did music ed, I think that one came the easiest.
Right.
I think clarinet was the hardest for me. It's like it seemed like it was stopped up for one thing. Plus the fingerings they're not the same.
Right.
Yeah,
they're not the same across registers, and it's harder to blow through, and then you have all these open holes that you got to make sure your finger's in the exact right spot when you put it down. So clarinet has its own challenges. For sure.
It does, for sure.
And I took clarinet in my undergrad as an applied minor. So it's my minor instrument was clarinet. And I did that because, I wanted to work in pit orchestras. And I was like, okay, I need to learn clarinet because...
Oh, they can get paid 2 or 3 times. Yeah, because I watched the horn players when I was in pit bands. They get double pay if they're like French horn, trumpet, all that stuff. They get paid for both of them. Or a lot of trumpet players play flute. I never saw the relationship, but trumpet and flute.
Right.
But it seems like a lot.
Well, if you're playing something new, sometimes those orchestrators do that so that their friend gets more money. If they know their friend is going to be playing. But I picked up clarinet, and with flute, I can play a little bit. I can make noise and push down buttons, but, it's enough to get by. And, I used to play a lot of pit gigs before I got this job, when I was basically freelancing my way through life. But I don't as much anymore, but I do still play at least one a year. And a lot of these high school theater programs are top-notch, and they hire in professionals to play in the pit. And it's a great experience, and I've made a lot of connections that way. So
the Mount, I've worked for them a few times. They have a theater program, but
right.
It's kind of all right, I guess. But most of the times I've played, I was ready for it to be over.
By the time you go through a week of rehearsals and then 5 or 6 shows, that's all you hear in your head is this music, and you're probably getting it all correct by the last show, just in time to put the book away.
I suppose I think for me, I learned playing classic rock and blues when I picked up guitar, and it was like we were saying, it's more of a different school of thought. Like diehard classical people, it's hard to get them to to swing, and it's hard to get them to solo.
Right. Well, yeah, because they've never had to do it.
Yeah, and then
You know?
and then vice versa. The best player in the jazz jam probably can't read that well. So
Right. Right. It's like everyone has different strengths, and it's like, where does that balance? So, with the jazz band, I've got a guitarist. He's amazing, but he can't read, and he can kind of read tabs. But if you set a chart down in front of him and you give him a recording, he's got it by the next rehearsal.
That's good. And some guitar players will tab it out, but
Yeah.
I try to encourage it. But it is as a guitarist, it's a tough instrument to read on because there's a lot of different places we can play each note.
Right.
Plus, it's not laid out like. But fortunately, I had some really good teachers at Berkeley. We had reading lab.
Right.
And
Right.
it was either learn it or flunk out. It's not like we had a choice of.
Right. That's what happens when you go to music school. You do it or you don't.
Yeah. So I'm glad, and I don't mind it now. It's not and I do try to read some new stuff pretty regular because that's the only way to get better. To me, is you have to read something that you don't know.
Exactly.
And you have to read something new because once you play it once, you've already kind of started memorizing it.
Yeah. I mean, like one read through, it's like 70% at that point, And if you want to challenge yourself, you just got to keep looking at new stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're real excited about all the ensembles and music stuff happening at the university. And, in March, I think it's third Tuesday, March 24th, we'll be having our Mega Mix concert, which has all of our ensembles on it. So it's kind of like a taster concert where each of the ensembles plays a couple pieces, and that kind of coincides with the beginning of our advising period. So that way students that maybe want to join an ensemble or are thinking about joining an ensemble, they can go and hear all of them.
That's cool.
And then it's kind of fresh in their mind when they're thinking about their schedule for the next semester.
That's awesome. And all of those concerts are free.
That's right. All free.
And there's generally plenty of parking across the street from it's the Weston Auditorium, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah, Weston Auditorium.
Sometimes there's smaller concerts in the Kent Recital Hall, which is right next door.
Right. Usually I have the jazz concerts in there, but that this spring we'll be having that in Weston because we're having our jazz night on April 29th. And so we started that a couple of years ago. We had Neil Smith, who's a Grammy Award-winning drummer.
Tony told me about that, the guy that booked him, but
Yeah.
I'm glad I have a lot of gigs lately, but sometimes I miss a lot of these.
Right.
So, but he came in, he worked with my students in the morning, and then in the afternoon we had students from Fitchburg High and Leominster High.
Mm-hmm.
They came in for a master class and worked with him. We fed the high school students dinner. They had pizza and whatnot. And then we had a big concert that night, and, with both of those high school jazz bands and with us, and then we all did a piece together. And we were absolutely packed to the gills in Kent. So this year, we're moving it over to Weston just so we can fit a little bit better, make things a little bit easier for everybody and the parents and whatnot, and also better air conditioning.
Yeah.
But this year we're going to have Christine Fossen, and she is an amazing trumpet player and a really amazing vocalist. Used to teach both of those things at Berkeley. And she's just an amazing personality. I can't wait to have her come in. She's a real kind of like go-getter, out there personality, and I think the students are really going to like her. So, and Fitchburg Cultural Council gave us a grant for that, but we are a few dollars short. I need to raise about $800 more.
Yeah,
for that.
There's a place they could donate, right?
Yeah, I'm getting that set up right now. I got to iron out all the logistics of that. But we are happy to take donations if someone wants to contact me through the university, and I can point you in the right direction to make that donation. And because I need to get that set up through institutional advancement.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got that information last week on how much our grant was. So now we got to finish up with some donations to make that happen. And if we got eight business people out there could make $100 donation, that would go a long way to making this happen.
Yeah, and it does. I was when I had the mayor on and we were talking about, I think the arts is really what makes a city to begin with.
Yeah.
But then if you can keep it there and keep them from pricing the artist out, like, San Francisco in the 60s or
Right.
or Greenwich Village in the 60s.
Right.
The artists made it really cool. Or Boston, too. When I first moved to Boston, Kenmore Square, there was rock and roll clubs, there was like,
everywhere. It's really.
But now it's like no one can afford it, so we drift out to the suburbs. But Fitchburg, I think, we have the college, we have a nice art museum. I know it gets a bad rap sometimes, but I ended up here because I had never heard of it, but it's the cost of living is fairly inexpensive, and to work as an artist.
Yeah.
I haven't had to take any other jobs that I didn't like,
Right.
Since I moved here, I first worked for Thayer Symphony till they closed, and I was teaching in some schools too, but I pretty much teach and play since I moved here. So.
Before I got this job, that's all I was doing too. I was teaching like 50-some saxophone students a week out of my house, and just playing wherever. And when I was an undergrad, we had saxophonist Oliver Lake come and play with us and do some master classes, and I had to go pick him up at the airport. And we were chatting in the car, and he said, he goes, I've never made an enormous amount of money, but I've always had enough money.
That's good, yeah.
To provide for me and my family. And so that statement kind of stuck with me all through my career. It's like I've always been able to make enough money, to pay for what I need to pay for and keep doing what I love doing.
That's me, I've watched people chase that dollar all their life and then they die.
Right.
It's like they want to have all this stuff to show it there, but then this creates more of a burden to me.
Yeah.
But we have like 7 or 8 minutes. I wanted to ask you, I got to ask you about those bagpipes. I remember when I first met Amy, I was like, well, I don't really like the sound. Because all I had really heard was, the firemen, when I lived in Boston, practice Amazing Grace going up the street, like early in the morning when you...
Yeah.
And in the park they would practice too. So that's about all I knew about bagpipes. But you're like a professional. Do you call it a piper, or what do you call it?
Yeah. So in the piping world, we have competitions, like solo competitions. So you go and you get rated, and I don't like to call myself a professional piper because that's an achieved level that I don't have. Okay, but yes, I do piping gigs, and for 25 years I played with Clan McPherson Pipes and Drums in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Only recently just stepped back from that. We're 50 miles away now. It's just getting harder and harder to go up there for rehearsals and do those jobs up there in the Merrimack Valley. But those guys taught me how to play, got me started. It was one of the instruments I always wanted to learn when I was a kid. I'd see them in parades and stuff, and never had an opportunity to learn them until I moved up here to Massachusetts. And so there's a lot of pipers around. Somebody wants to learn how to play bagpipes. It's accessible here.
And I was asking you about the notes. There's what, 9 notes?
There are 9 notes, and it's basically...
But they're not necessarily, like, say, for us, the way we're taught, A is 440 and middle C would be, 262. You're not necessarily not sticking to that, right?
No, our tuning's a little bit sharper than that, and it honestly can depend on the day, whether it's hot or cold or humid or dry. But typically, our A is actually kind of like a sharp B on the keyboard.
Okay, and then so as far as the intervals, are they the same distance apart, like a third and a fourth and a fifth?
Yeah, so we have our scale goes from A to A, but with an F sharp and a C sharp in it. So it's kind of like a Mixolydian mode.
Yeah, that's why I read that. I was just saying, well,
Yeah.
yeah, you should do A blues.
And there's a guy out there somewhere, I forget his name, but there's a guy who plays like blues bagpipes and
Well, there's
stuff.
some girl
Yeah.
just played in Worcester. Someone had posted it.
Oh, Allie the Piper.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's from New York, and she came up in a friend of mine's band, Maureen Connor. She runs the, it used to be the Capital District Youth Pipe Band. It's now Scotia Glenville Pipe Band, I think. But it's a youth organization, and she teaches tons of kids. But Allie came up through that program. You know, she's a great piper, and she's found a way to kind of bring that to the masses in a way that you know people like, and you know she's playing rock songs and stuff, and you know makes it a little bit more accessible to people that don't know anything about bagpipes.
Like me.
You know, because you know bagpipes are very polarizing. People either love them or they hate them. You know, and
It seems like it, but I don't. I mean, I'm after researching a little more. It's not just playing Amazing Grace at funerals.
right. I mean, there's a centuries of music development for the bagpipes, and you know some very ancient music and some very modern music, and you know it has its own history in Scotland alone, but also you know almost every civilization period in you know Europe and the Middle East has some sort of bagpipe.
And yours, are you Scottish? Your last name is kind of Scottish.
It is. I've traced us back to Glasgow, so yeah,
Oh, yeah,
we're
that's
Scottish.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think my mother's side Scotch-Irish, but I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
My father's side was German. That's all I know.
yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. You know, a lot of Germans and a lot of Scotch-Irish came through, immigrated into North Carolina.
Yeah, that's
and
the
that's where my family.
Yeah,
you
the
know,
Troxlers, I
yeah.
think, were originally first in Pennsylvania, then North Carolina, and then the Scotch-Irish, the North Carolina mountains. They actually have Highland games in North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
And you know, I noticed too, like the Irish and stuff, that bluegrass, the similarities of you know the
Yes.
Celtic and the
Yeah, bluegrass has a lot of similarities to you know traditional Irish music and traditional Scottish music. So you can, when you start comparing those types of music, you can really hear that coming through.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, and you generally do some bagpipes for the concerts, right?
I did do some bagpipes at our faculty concert last semester, which is usually in October. And I just actually got a new to me set of bagpipes that I'm really excited about. So, so you might hear some more bagpipes around.
Awesome. So we're down to about a minute. We have to cut it off because FATV will cut it off for us. Well, they have to keep theirs to a half an hour, but I guess I could put them any length. But thank you so much for watching jazzchat.org. Thanks to Dr. McGlothlin.
Thanks, Eddie. It's an honor to be here.
For coming on the show, and Fitchburg State, check out the concerts. This stuff's really happening, and Fitchburg is the arts are bringing it, to be a really cool city. If you're away from town, you like me, you're looking for an inexpensive place to live that has a lot going on. Check it out.
Yeah.
And FATV, thanks for having us on. We're out of here.
Thank you, Eddie.